Thank you, Judge West and Judge Henry. You give a whole new meaning to the term judicious demeanor. And thank you, Andy Coach, for that incomparable introduction. I now call on John Tucker, who chairs our Samuel Gates Litigation Award Committee from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who will present the Samuel Gates Award.
A part of the business of this college is to appropriately recognize people who have made special contributions, and the Samuel Gates Award is one of those opportunities that we take. We give this award periodically to recognize a lawyer who has made an extraordinary contribution or contributions to litigation. We have a recipient today, Mr. William R. Jones, Jr., and we have Mrs. Gates with us in the third row in the center. Mr. Jones is the senior partner of Jones, Skelton, and Hockley of Phoenix, Arizona. He was born in Covington, Kentucky. He went to the University of Michigan Law School and graduated in 1962, and he's here today with his charming wife, Ellen. He is a fellow of this college, and as a fellow, he has tried more than 150 civil jury cases. He has more than 100 published opinions. I'm not sure what that speaks well or not well, Judge Henry. He has 15 published articles. He served as state chairman of the college. As a teacher, he was one of the founders of the Arizona College of Trial Advocacy. He taught with that College of Trial Advocacy now for more than 15 years. He has taught NETA courses in 3 different states and lectured in 4 universities. He's not a legislator, never been a legislator, but he has been appointed on several occasions by governors of the state of Arizona and by the Supreme Court of Arizona to solve specific major problems. He was appointed either as chairman or manager of committees in the 1970s through the 1990s that first addressed the medical malpractice crisis in Arizona. He brought together members of the plaintiff's bar, the defense bar, and the insurance industry, and that resulted in an act, the Uniform Rules of Procedure for medical malpractice in Arizona. When Arizona had a product liability crisis, again, the result was the Product Liability Reform Act. Mr. Jones was instrumental in the litigation that preserved and defined attorney-client privilege for corporations. The Government Liability Act for Arizona. The act providing for uniform contribution among joint tortfeasors in Arizona. The Uniform Rules of Procedure for Workers' Compensation in Arizona. But enough of the nuts and bolts of why he is professionally entitled to this award. I spoke with his good friend, former Justice of the Arizona Supreme Court, Stanley Feldman, who gave us the real story. Justice Feldman said, "I have known Bill Jones for more than 30 years. I have known him as an adversary, a colleague working on bar matters, as a judge before whom he often appeared, and most importantly, as a trusted friend. Thus, I know more about Bill than most others, and I can tell you quite clearly and firmly that Bill holds strong views on every legal issue. Almost all of these views," says Justice Feldman, "are dead wrong." Let me read to you what's on the plaque which we present today to Mr. Jones. As an outstanding trial lawyer, a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, a mentor and a leader of your law firm, a teacher of trial advocacy, and a judge pro temp of both the Arizona Court of Appeals and the Superior Court of Arizona, you have distinguished yourself as the moving force behind important Arizona legislation in products liability, attorney-client privilege, government liability, tort and workers' compensation reform, medical malpractice, compulsory arbitration, and the Arizona Rules of Civil Procedure. You have made special and significant contributions to the improvement of the litigation process. By your life and your deeds, you have honored our profession. With profound respect, the Fellows of the American College of Trial Lawyers present to you the Samuel E. Gates Litigation Award. Mr. Jones.
President Lightfoot, Mr. Tucker, distinguished guests, my colleagues, and fellows. I am truly humbled this day by this recognition. The day I was admitted in the college was the pinnacle of my professional career. It was the professional honor to which I aspired. That the Samuel E. Gates Award has previously been bestowed upon some of the greatest legal minds we have known makes today's recognition beyond the scope of my imagination. This is particularly true because the quality that this award honors, contribution, is something which for me is a given. I'm truly grateful and I'm truly humbled. My dad was a country lawyer in the hills of Kentucky, and as a youngster I learned from him that the greatness of these United States is in significant part based on the rule of law. The rule of law equalizes all individuals and distinguishes us from many, if not most, of the other nations in the world. It supports our democracy and protects our citizens from a totalitarian rule. It allows us to live in peace and dignity and avoids the chaos we see throughout the world, particularly in these times. As a child, I learned something else from that small-town lawyer as I sat around his one-room office. As a profession, we have been granted exclusive custody of a great public trust. Our fellow citizens have charged us with the task of being the guardians and trustees of our system of justice. We are responsible for protecting, shaping, nourishing, and growing that justice system for all of our citizens. This message was not only my father's, but was also eloquently delivered by the thoughtful faculty as I matriculated through the University of Michigan Law School, a faculty which included Professor John Reed, a prior recipient of this award. So it was that when I raised my hand and took the oath to become a lawyer, it had already been instilled in me that with the oath of the profession, I was accepting an awesome responsibility. That is the responsibility of a public servant. The responsibility to do my small part to discharge our profession's fiduciary duty to protect, shape, and grow our justice system so that all of our citizens can prosper together as a free nation. So you see, the basis for this wonderful award today stems from what has already been a natural part of my life. Contributing back to the profession and our society is a sacred obligation that goes hand in hand with the privilege of being a member of this honorable profession. And my friends, it is an honorable profession, no matter how hard some of its members may denigrate it with their selfish and thoughtless words and actions. The public trust bestowed on us is not irrevocable, and I fear that some of our profession have either forgotten or sadly were never instilled with the obligations of their position as public servants and trustees of this great justice system. I fear that those of our profession who have brought it into disrepute could cause us to lose some or all of our trusteeship. Indeed, even in these times, we see our exclusive custodial position eroding, and with it we also see the continual erosion of respect for the system. Disrespect of the justice system is, in a measure, disrespect for this great country. Unquestionably, there are a variety of reasons that so many in our profession have abandoned the obligation to contribute. As with most of our societal problems, in my view, the root of the problem lies in the home and in the dying art of communication. I use the term home very loosely. I'm talking about youngsters not being schooled by their families, their peers, their teachers and professors, and their colleagues regarding the true values and obligations of our lives in our society. By the dying art of communication, I refer primarily to the fact that we have allowed our lives to become so hectic that we do not sit down face to face with our families, our friends, our colleagues, and our professional associates and talk openly about the values that have made us a great as families, as law firms, as societies, and as a nation. We've not taken the time to remember that when the final judgment of who we are and what we may have accomplished is made, it will not be based on how many cases we've won, but rather on how we have fulfilled our obligations to others. We will not be judged on the number of billable hours or the bottom line. We will be judged in part on whether we worship at the idol of the almighty dollar or whether we serve together to provide for others by discharging our duties as the trustees and guardians of our great legal justice system. For those of us who learned our obligations from our parents, teachers, and professors, from our mentors, it is almost second nature to say yes when we're asked to participate in the improvement of the justice system or our profession. I suspect that the majority of our profession, when asked, would also step forward and lend a helping hand. The question is one of leadership. Any significant change requires two factors. First, a leader. Second, a cause. We have the leaders. In fact, a large percentage of the leaders of our great profession have attended this meeting here in Boca Raton. It is to you that I make my plea to identify the causes and lead the way to healthy change which will set us on a course of improving what is already the greatest justice system in the world. Identifying the causes is not difficult. We as a profession cannot sit idly by when the media attacks and pillories our judiciary because an unpopular decision is not in keeping with what the media wants. How difficult is it for our bar associations to form committees of highly respected practitioners to respond to unjustified media criticism of those judges who cannot speak for themselves? And when those in our legislature duck difficult issues of public policy because they are controversial, how difficult would it be for us as a profession to remind those distinguished representatives that with their abdication of responsibility, they have forfeited their right to complain of judicial activism when those matters of public policy are decided in the courts? When our courts are clogged with lawsuits, how difficult would it be to sit down and reason together with our colleagues and design an arbitration system that not only disposes of a large percentage of cases, but still protects what I would perceive as the God-given right to a trial by jury? That system can be staffed to a large extent by lawyers who volunteer their time and save the public tens of millions of dollars in tax money. When we're plagued by a crisis in our healthcare system, which might or might not be partially caused by a slow and expensive judicial process, can we not reason together to change our rules to make that system more expeditious and less expensive, while preserving the rights of those who are legitimately injured by the fault of another? Must our greed exceed the public's need for health care? When we price ourselves in such a manner that we become unreachable to the average citizen because of cost, why are we not working with various agencies to make available alternative legal services with oversight by our profession? For instance, does the average domestic relations case truly belong in our court system? In Arizona, less than 8% of our domestic relations cases have attorneys on both sides. Over 65% have no attorneys involved at all. Why don't we find alternatives to that system? The public is finding alternatives, whether they are adequate or inadequate. Why don't we assure that they are adequate? Can we not examine whether the vast majority of these cases even belong in the civil justice system? Can the litigants and their families not be better served by an allied profession that includes paraprofessionals such as counselors and psychologists? Would such a system do a better job of preserving families than the stressful litigation system? Are our tort laws effectively addressing the needs to fairly compensate those who are truly injured through the fault of others, without overcompensating and duplicating compensation? Can we provide the same fair compensation without all of the costs? Have we forgotten the silent part of our great civil justice system, the jurors? Must they be kept waiting forever? Must they go without being adequately compensated for the great service they rendered? Can we not make their experience a better one? We also need to ask ourselves whether we as a profession are providing the leadership to address these and other issues with intellectual honesty. Why not approach our law schools and demand that its students be taught these contributory values, and that the ethical rules are minimum standards of behavior, not aspirations? I was so pleased to hear of the practical experience of some of our distinguished speakers today who are now leading the academic ranks. Why do we leave the teaching of those values and the addressing of those issues exclusively to folks who have never been in a courtroom or experienced the obligations of representing a client in a life and death situation? There's enormous intellect and capability sitting in this room today. I dare say that with the brain power and influence of those here today, there are precious few problems with our justice system that could not be addressed and effectively improved. The causes are there, and the leadership is here. I suggest that we have a personal obligation to merge the leadership with the causes and get this job done. Avoiding the temptation to worship at the idol of the almighty dollar may well mean that I will not leave a great financial legacy to my beloved wife. When I look in the mirror, however, I do not see a balance sheet. I see a person who can say he has done his best to fulfill the obligations of the public trust bestowed upon him as a member of this honorable profession. I would hope that each member of the college will share with me the question that I ask myself on almost a daily basis as I grow older. Who am I? And what am I really all about? Again, to all of the fellows, and particularly to those who came a long way from Arizona, you have my undying gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Jones. You inspire us and you give us great pride in our profession. We are honored to have you as our Gates recipient.